Hey fellow nerds, today we are going to learn properties of Laplace transform. We will be covering linearity property, time shifting, shifting in the S domain, time scaling, time reversal, conjugation, convolution property, differentiation in the time domain, differentiation in the S domain, integration in the time domain, the initial value theorem, and final value theorem. Let us start with the linearity property. Assume you have a signal x of t and its Laplace transform is x of s, ROC being R1. You have another signal y of t, its Laplace transform is y of s and ROC is R2. Then according to this property, Laplace transform of ax of t plus by of t will be ax of s plus by of s. And its ROC will contain the intersection of R1 and R2. Let us try to prove this. Laplace transform of x of t, x of s will be equal to integral from minus infinity to infinity x of t e raised to minus st dt. Similarly, y of s is going to be integral from minus infinity to infinity y of t e raised to minus st dt. Consider a signal z of t, which is a linear combination of x of t and y of t. It is ax of t plus by of t. Then we can find the Laplace transform of z of t. Z of s is equal to integral from minus infinity to infinity z of t e raised to minus st dt. But z of t is ax of t plus by of t. So this is integral from minus infinity to infinity ax of t plus by of t e raised to minus st dt. We can split the integration into two. We get integral from minus infinity to infinity ax of t e raised to minus st dt plus integral from minus infinity to infinity by of t e raised to minus st dt. Here a and b are constants. They can come out of the integration. Now what we have over here is just x of s and what we have over here is y of s. So we get z of s is simply ax of s plus by of s. Now an important thing over here is I haven't written ROC is equal to R1 intersection R2. Instead I wrote ROC contains intersection of R1 and R2. To understand what that means, let us solve a problem. We have to find the Laplace transform of x of t, which is x1 of t minus x2 of t. Laplace transform of x1 of t is x1 of s. It is 1 by s plus 1 and ROC is sigma greater than minus 1. Laplace transform of x2 of t is x2 of s. It is 1 by s plus 1 into s plus 2 and ROC is sigma greater than minus 1. Our first function is x1 of s is equal to 1 by s plus 1. It has one pole at s equal to minus 1. If we plot the ROC on an S-plane, it will look like this. ROC is towards the right of its one pole at minus 1. The second function x2 of s is 1 by s plus 1 into s plus 2. This one has two poles. One is at minus 1 and one is at minus 2. Let us plot its ROC on an S-plane. It has one pole at minus 2, one pole at minus 1 and ROC is towards the right of the rightmost pole minus 1. Now according to the question, x of t is x1 of t minus x2 of t. So using linearity property we can write x of s will be x1 of s minus x2 of s. That is 1 by s plus 1 minus 1 by s plus 1 multiplied by s plus 2. Let us take 1 by s plus 1 as common. So 1 by s plus 1 multiplied by 1 minus 1 by s plus 2. That is 1 by s plus 1 multiplied by s plus 2 minus 1 divided by s plus 2. Now s plus 2 minus 1 is s plus 1. We can cancel s plus 1 and s plus 1. So this is simply going to be equal to 1 by s plus 2, which means it only has one pole and that is at minus 2. If we plot the ROC on an S-plane, it will look like this. ROC of x1 of s is sigma greater than minus 1, which means it is right-sided. For x2 of s also, it is sigma greater than minus 1, that is towards the right of the rightmost pole. So x1 of t and x2 of t are right-sided, which means x of t is also right-sided because x of t is simply x1 of t minus x2 of t. So x of s will also have ROC that is towards the right of the rightmost pole. But x of s only has one pole which is at minus 2. So we have a pole at minus 2 and ROC is towards the right of minus 2. Now the most important thing that happened here is when we took x1 of s minus x2 of s, the pole at minus 1 got cancelled. Looking at the first two ROCs, we can see that if you took their intersections, you would get sigma is greater than minus 1. Because here also sigma is greater than minus 1, here also sigma is greater than minus 1. So its intersection is also sigma greater than minus 1. But ROC of x of s is not just sigma greater than minus 1, it is sigma greater than minus 2. Of course, it contains sigma greater than minus 1 because that is this much. Plus, we had something extra that is between minus 2 to minus 1 also. So, what we can conclude from here is this. ROC for the Laplace transform of a linear combination of signals can sometimes extend beyond the intersection of the ROCs of individual terms. ROC of the combination is definitely going to contain the intersection R1 intersection R2, but it can have more than that. Just like what we saw here, this does contain sigma greater than minus 1, but it also contains sigma between minus 2 and minus 1. That is why we wrote ROC contains R1 intersection R2 rather than ROC is equal to R1 intersection R2. Because in case a number of poles get cancelled, then ROC will be more than R1 intersection R2. The next property we have to learn is time shifting. If the Laplace transform of x of t is x of s and its ROC is r, then the Laplace transform of x of t minus t naught is going to be e raised to minus st naught x of s. And its ROC is going to be the same r. Let us prove this. We know x of s is given as integral from minus infinity to infinity x of t e raised to minus st dt. Let us take y of t to be the time shifted version of x of t, that is x of t minus t naught. Then we can write Laplace transform of y of t. Y of s will be equal to integral from minus infinity to infinity y of t e raised to minus st dt. But y of t is x of t minus t naught. Let us change that here. Now let's take t minus t naught is equal to m. If we differentiate on both sides of this equation, we get dt minus dt naught is equal to dm. But t naught is a constant, so dt naught is 0. We get dt is equal to dm. Let's use that in this equation for y of s. Then we get y of s is equal to integral from minus infinity to infinity. X of t minus t naught becomes x of m. E raised to minus s. T is now m plus t naught. Dt will become dm. Now here we have e raised to minus s into m plus t naught. We can write it like this: e raised to minus sm multiplied by e raised to minus st naught. E raised to minus st naught is a constant. Let us take that out of the integral. What we have over here is integral from minus infinity to infinity x of m e raised to minus sm dm. But we know it doesn't matter what you call the variable to which you're going to give the limit eventually. So instead of taking m, let us take t itself. So this is actually nothing but x of s, Laplace transform of x of t. So y of s is equal to e raised to minus st naught multiplied by x of s. Here e raised to minus st naught is a finite value because t naught is a finite value. So e raised to minus st naught multiplied by x of s will converge wherever x of s converges, which is r. So ROC for this is also r. So ROC does not change with time shifting. E raised to minus st naught here is simply a scaling factor and it does not introduce any new poles into the function. So this is going to converge wherever x of s converges, and that is r. Let us solve a problem now. We have to find the Laplace transform of x of t, which is u of t minus u of t minus t. Let us find the Laplace transforms of the individual functions first. We will take u of t. Its Laplace transform is going to be integral from minus infinity to infinity u of t e raised to minus st dt. But u of t is 0 for t being from minus infinity to 0 and u of t is 1 from 0 to infinity. So this simply becomes integral from 0 to infinity 1 times e raised to minus st dt. Integrating this we get minus 1 by s e raised to minus st, limits are from 0 to infinity. So minus 1 by s, giving the upper limit I get e raised to minus infinity which is 0, minus giving the lower limit I get e raised to 0 which is 1. Negative and negative gets cancelled. This is simply 1 by s. Now our second function is u of t minus t, which is merely a time shifted version of u of t. Let us use the time shifting property to find its Laplace transform. For a time shift of t naught, it will be e raised to minus s t naught x of s. So here we have a time shift of t. It's going to be e raised to minus st x of s is 1 by s. Now x of t is u of t minus u of t minus t. So let us find the Laplace transform of x of t, that is x of s. According to linearity property, x of s is going to be x1 of s minus x2 of s. So 1 by s minus e raised to minus st by s. Or we can write 1 minus e raised to st divided by s. Now u of t on a graph looks like this. It is 0 until t equal to 0 and after that it is 1 till infinity. U of t minus t will look like this. It is a shifted version of u of t. So it starts at t. Until t it is 0 and after t it will become 1. We need u of t minus u of t minus t. We have to subtract the second signal from the first signal. So x of t will look like this. X of t is 1 from 0 to t and it is 0 everywhere else. So what we can conclude from here is x of t is a finite duration signal. And we have learned in our previous video that for a finite duration signal, the ROC could be the entire S-plane. But we definitely have to check for s equal to infinity, s equal to minus infinity and s equal to 0. First, let us check for sigma equal to 0. Limit s tends to 0, x of s is limit s tends to 0, 1 minus e raised to minus st divided by s. If I give s equal to 0, this is 1 minus e raised to 0 is 1 divided by s is 0. So this is of the form 0 by 0, which means we cannot directly apply the limit. We'll have to use L'Hospital rule. That is, we'll first take the derivative of the numerator and the derivative of the denominator, then apply the limit. So this will become limit s tends to 0. In the numerator, derivative of 1 is 0 minus derivative of e raised to minus st is minus s e raised to minus st. So we get s e raised to minus st In the denominator, derivative of s is 1. Now if I give s the value 0, this will become 0. 0 is a finite value, which means sigma equal to 0 is included in the ROC. Now let us check for sigma equals infinity. Limit s tends to infinity x of s is limit s tends to infinity 1 minus e raised to minus st divided by s. If I give it s equal to infinity, this becomes 1 minus e raised to minus infinity is 0 divided by s. So this is limit s tends to infinity 1 by s. If you take 1 by s and s is a huge value, then 1 by s will tend to be 0. So this is equal to 0. This is again a finite value, which means sigma equal to infinity is also included in the ROC. Now let us check for sigma equals minus infinity. Limit s tends to be minus infinity x of s. That is limit s tends to minus infinity 1 minus e raised to minus st divided by s. If I give s the value minus infinity, I will have 1 minus e raised to minus of minus infinity is plus infinity divided by s is infinity. So this is of the form infinity by infinity, which means we cannot directly apply the limit. We have to use L'Hospital rule. So this becomes limit s tends to minus infinity. Derivative of the numerator is s e raised to minus st. We have already found that here. Denominator is s, its derivative is 1. Now if we give the value minus infinity, s is minus infinity, e raised to plus infinity. This is going to be an infinite value. So sigma equals minus infinity is not included in the ROC. That is, ROC contains the entire S-plane except sigma equals minus infinity. Let us solve another problem. We have to find the Laplace transform of x of t, which is e raised to minus t minus 3 u of t minus 3. We already know the Laplace transform of e raised to minus t u of t. It is 1 by s plus 1 and ROC is sigma greater than minus 1. What we have over here is simply a time shifted version of e raised to minus t u of t, so we can apply the time shifting property. So Laplace transform of e raised to minus t minus 3 u of t minus 3 is going to be e raised to minus s t naught multiplied by the original Laplace transform. Here t naught is 3, so we get e raised to minus 3s multiplied by the original Laplace transform 1 by s plus 1. And ROC is going to be unchanged, sigma greater than minus 1. So let's write it down. X of s is equal to e raised to minus 3s divided by s plus 1 for sigma greater than minus 1. The next property is shifting in the s domain. If x of s is the Laplace transform of our signal x of t and its ROC is r, then according to this property, x of s minus s naught will be the Laplace transform of e raised to s naught t x of t. And the ROC is going to be the original ROC plus the real part of s naught. Now let's prove it. We know Laplace transform of x of t. X of s is given like this. Integral from minus infinity to infinity x of t e raised to minus st dt. Let us take y of t to be e raised to s naught t x of t, which is what we have over here. Now let's try to find the Laplace transform of that. That is y of s. This will be equal to integral from minus infinity to infinity y of t, which is e raised to s naught t x of t, e raised to minus st dt. We can combine these two. We'll get e raised to minus s naught into t. We got integral from minus infinity to infinity x of t e raised to minus of s minus s naught into t dt. What we had over here is very similar to what we have over here. The only difference is here we had s. Here we have s minus s naught. When we had s, we called it x of s. So when you have s minus s naught, you can easily call it x of s minus s naught. So Laplace transform of e raised to s naught t x of t is x of s minus s naught. That is the proof to what we have written over here. We also need to see how the ROC became R plus real part of s naught. To understand that, assume we have a signal whose Laplace transform has a pole at s equal to a. So we can write, assume x of s is equal to infinity at s equal to a, which means it has a pole at s equal to a. The ROC can be plotted on an S-plane like this. Assuming our signal is right-sided, ROC is from A towards the right. Now, if I take x of s minus s naught and I want it to be infinite, that is, I'm trying to find out its pole where its value becomes infinite. But we already know at s equal to a, we get infinity. That is, when whatever is in the bracket becomes a, we get a pole. So here we'll have to write s minus s naught is equal to a, or s is equal to a plus s naught, the original ROC plus s naught. But then again, we already know ROC does not depend on the imaginary part, it only depends on the real part. So we write ROC is going to be R plus the real part of s naught. If we plot the ROC on an S-plane, it will look like this. The pole has shifted s naught units towards the right, and ROC is now towards the right of the new pole, which is at a plus s naught. Let us solve a problem. We have to find the Laplace transform of x of t, that is e raised to minus at cos bt u of t. Before we solve this, let us try to find out the Laplace transform of cos bt u of t. For that, consider the function e raised to j at u of t. This is of the form e raised to minus at u of t. We know its Laplace transform is 1 by s plus a, and ROC is sigma greater than minus a. Comparing with this signal, we can see instead of minus a, we have plus ja. So its Laplace transform is going to be 1 by s minus ja, and sigma is going to be greater than ja. But ja is 0 plus ja. Its real part is 0, and we know ROC only depends on the real part. So we won't write sigma is greater than ja, we will write sigma is greater than 0. Now let us take 1 by s minus ja and try to rationalize its denominator. For that, we'll multiply it with s plus ja and divide it with s plus ja. Multiply and divide with the conjugate of the denominator. So this becomes s plus ja divided by, the denominator becomes s minus ja into s plus ja is s square plus a square. Let us split it into two terms, s by s square plus a square plus j a by s square plus a square. Let it be there. Let us take e raised to j a t u of t again. Using Euler's relation, this is cos at u of t plus j sin at u of t. But we just saw the Laplace transform of this is s by s square plus j a by s square plus a square. Comparing with what we have over here and applying linearity property, we can see that s by s square plus a square has to be the Laplace transform of cos at u of t, and a by s square plus a square has to be the Laplace transform of sin at u of t. So Laplace transform of cos at u of t is s by s square plus a square. We already found the ROC here. It is sigma greater than 0. Laplace transform of sin at u of t is a by s square plus a square, and its ROC is also sigma greater than 0. What we have over here is cos bt u of t. Its Laplace transform will be s divided by s square plus b square. ROC is sigma greater than 0. To find the Laplace transform of e raised to minus at multiplied by cos bt u of t, let us use the previous property that we learned. According to this, Laplace transform of e raised to s naught t x of t is x of s minus s naught. So Laplace transform of e raised to minus at cos bt u of t will be, we need to write x of s minus s naught. Instead of s naught here, we have minus a. So s naught is minus a. And x of s is the Laplace transform of our function cos bt u of t. It is s divided by s square plus b square. ROC is sigma greater than 0. So x of s minus s naught will be s minus minus a or s plus a, s minus minus a squared plus b squared. We also need its ROC. For x of s, we got ROC is sigma greater than 0. So for x of s minus s naught, we'll have to write sigma minus s naught is greater than 0. But s naught could be a complex variable also, and ROC only depends on the real part of the variable. So instead of writing sigma minus s naught, let us write sigma minus real part of s naught. In this case, s naught is minus a. So we get sigma minus a, that is sigma plus a is greater than 0, or we can write sigma is greater than minus a. If we plot the ROCs of cos bt u of t and a raised to minus at cos bt u of t, it will look like this. For cos bt u of t, sigma is greater than 0. For e raised to minus at cos bt u of t, it is greater than minus a. So this much got added into the original ROC. That's why we have ROC is R plus real part of S naught. The next property we have to learn is time scaling. If x of t is a signal and its Laplace transform is x of s, where ROC is R, then according to this property, Laplace transform of x of at is going to be 1 by mod of a x of s by a, and ROC will be R divided by a. Let us try to prove this. We know x of s is equal to integral from minus infinity to infinity x of t e raised to minus st dt. Let us take y of t to be the time scaled version of x of t, that is x of at. Then we can write its Laplace transform y of s. It will be integral from minus infinity to infinity. Y of t is x of at e raised to minus st dt. Now take at is equal to m. If you differentiate on both sides, a is a constant. So a dt is going to be equal to dm. Let's write it down. A dt is going to be dm. Let's apply that in our equation of y of s. Then we'll get y of s is equal to integral from minus infinity to infinity. X of at becomes x of m. E raised to minus st becomes e raised to minus s m by a. Dt becomes dm divided by a. 1 by a is a constant, it can come out of the integration. So we get this. Y of s is equal to 1 by a integral from minus infinity to infinity x of m e raised to minus s into m by a. We know it doesn't matter what we call the variable to which we are going to give the limit. So instead of m, I'll call it t itself. What I have now is integral from minus infinity to infinity x of t e raised to minus s into t by a dt. Instead of writing s into t by a, I am going to write s by a into t. Compare it with x of s over here. The only difference is here we had s, here we have s by a. When you had s, you called it x of s. So when you have s by a, you can call it x of s by a. So y of s is actually 1 by a x of s by a. Now, we cannot take a as such, we have to take the magnitude of a because a is only the scaling factor. It is not supposed to reverse our function. So, we will write y of s is 1 by mod a x of s by a. We also need to define the ROC. For x of s, the ROC is r. So, for x of s by a, it should become r by a. Assume R in the first case is sigma greater than A. In the second case, you will have to make it sigma by A greater than A. So let's write the condition. For getting ROC, replace sigma by A. If we do that, different cases can arise depending on the value of A. Assume the ROC of our original function looks like this. It ranges from R1 to R2. Now, if a is a number greater than 1, the ROC of our new function will look like this. It will be from R1 by a to R2 by a. And since a is greater than 1, there will be a compression. Now, assume the value of a is positive, but it is between 0 and 1. In that case, the ROC will look like this. It is going to be between R1 by a and R2 by a, but since a is less than 1, there is going to be an expansion instead of a compression. Now let us take a negative value for a. Assume a is less than minus 1. In that case, the ROC will look like this. Since magnitude of a is greater than 1, there is going to be a compression. But since it is negative 1, there is going to be a reversal also. Instead of the ROC being from R1 by a to R2 by a, this is from R2 by a to R1 by a. In the next case, let us take a between minus 1 and 0. That is, it is negative, but its magnitude is between 0 and 1. In that case, ROC will look like this. Because of its magnitude being between 0 and 1, there is expansion instead of compression. And since it is negative, there is a reversal also. It is from R2 by A to R1 by A now. Let us solve a problem. We have to find the Laplace transform of x of t, which is e raised to minus t by 2 u of t. We know the Laplace transform of e raised to minus t u of t. It is 1 by s plus 1 and ROC is sigma greater than minus 1. What we have over here is e raised to minus t by 2 u of t. But we know u of t is the same as u of t by 2. Time scaling does not apply to u of t. So we can write e raised to minus t by 2 u of t is the same as e raised to minus t by 2 u of t by 2. Now this function is simply e raised to minus t u of t with t being t by 2. According to the time scaling property, Laplace transform of x of at is 1 by magnitude of a multiplied by x of s by a. ROC is r by a. Comparing these two, we can see a here is 1 by 2. So Laplace transform of e raised to minus t by 2 u of t will be 1 by magnitude of 1 by 2 is 1 by 2 x of s by a. X of s is 1 by s plus 1. So x of s by a will be 1 by s by a, which is 1 by 2 plus 1. And for x of s, we got sigma greater than minus 1. So for x of s by a, we'll have to write sigma by a greater than minus 1, or sigma by 1 by 2 greater than minus 1. So we get the Laplace transform of e raised to minus t by 2 u of t is 2 divided by 2s plus 1, and ROC is sigma greater than minus 1 by 2. Let us check if this is correct. We know Laplace transform of e raised to minus at u of t is 1 by s plus a. ROC is sigma greater than minus a. Here a is 1 by 2. So put a is equal to 1 by 2. Then we get the Laplace transform of e raised to minus t by 2 u of t by 2, but it is the same as u of t. This is going to be 1 by s plus 1 by 2, and sigma is greater than minus a or minus 1 by 2. Now 1 by s plus 1 by 2 will be 1 by 2s plus 1 divided by 2, or 2 divided by 2s plus 1. Now that is exactly what we got over here. Let us solve another problem. Find the inverse Laplace transform of x of s by 2 if the Laplace transform of e raised to minus 2t is x of s. Let us take some x of t to be e raised to minus 2t. It is given that the Laplace transform of x of t is x of s. So according to our property, Laplace transform of x of at is going to be 1 by mod a x of s by a. Here we have to find out x of s by 2. What we have here is x of s by a. To get that, we have to put a is equal to 2. Then we get x of 2t has its Laplace transform 1 by 2 x of s by 2. Taking 2 to the other side, Laplace transform of 2x of 2t will be x of s by 2, or we can say the inverse Laplace transform of x of s by 2 is 2x of 2t, but x of t is e raised to minus 2t. So 2x of 2t will be 2 times x of 2t is e raised to minus 4t. This is the inverse Laplace transform of x of s by 2. Let us move on to the next property, which is time reversal. Assume we have a signal x of t and its Laplace transform is x of s, ROC is R. Then according to this property, Laplace transform of x of minus t is going to be x of minus s, and ROC is going to be minus of R. This is actually just a special case of the time scaling property where the scaling factor is minus 1. According to the time scaling property, Laplace transform of x of at is 1 by magnitude of a, x of s by a, and ROC is R by a. If you put a is equal to minus 1, you get the Laplace transform of x of minus t is 1 by magnitude of minus 1, x of s by minus 1 is minus s, and ROC will be R by minus 1, that is minus R. Let us solve a problem. We have to find the Laplace transform of x of t, which is e raised to 2t u of minus t. We already know the Laplace transform of e raised to minus 2t u of t. It is 1 by s plus 2, and sigma is greater than minus 2. What we have here is e raised to 2t u of minus t. Comparing with e raised to minus 2t u of t, we can see the only difference is instead of t, we have minus t here. According to our property, Laplace transform of x of minus t is x of minus s. So here, Laplace transform of e raised to 2t u of minus t is going to be 1 by minus s plus 2. And instead of writing sigma greater than minus 2, we'll have to write minus sigma greater than minus 2. Multiplying both sides on negative, we get sigma less than 2. When you multiply an inequality with a negative number on both sides, the inequality actually changes. That is why greater than became less than here. So Laplace transform of e raised to 2t u of minus t is 1 by minus s plus 2, and its ROC is sigma less than 2. Our next property is conjugation. If we have a signal x of t whose Laplace transform is x of s and it converges for r, then according to this property, Laplace transform of x conjugate of t will be x conjugate of s conjugate, and ROC is going to be r itself. Let's try to prove this. We'll start by defining y of t as x conjugate of t. Then we can write y of s is going to be integral from minus infinity to infinity. Y of t is x conjugate of t e raised to minus st dt. Now x of s is the Laplace transform of x of t, so it is integral from minus infinity to infinity x of t e raised to minus st dt. If I take the conjugate of this, I get x conjugate of s is equal to integral from minus infinity to infinity. Instead of x of t, I'll have to write x conjugate of t e raised to minus s is a complex variable, so I'll have to write s conjugate t dt. Now instead of x conjugate of s, I need x conjugate of s conjugate. So I will take the same expression, but I'll take the conjugate of the s value here. X conjugate will become s. So this will be integral from minus infinity to infinity x conjugate of t e raised to minus st dt. But this is exactly what we got over here. This is equal to y of s. That means Laplace transform of x conjugate of t is x conjugate of s conjugate. There is a consequence of this property. If x of t is real and its Laplace transform x of s has some pole or a zero at some s equal to s naught, then x of s will also have a pole at s equal to s naught conjugate. In simple words, we can say if x of s is the Laplace transform of a real function x of t and it has a pole at s naught, it also has another pole at s naught conjugate. If it has a 0 at s1, it also has another 0 at s1 conjugate. For example, let us say some x of s of a real function x of t has a pole at 1 plus j. Then it will have another pole at 1 minus j also. Let us try to prove this. For that, consider we have a signal whose Laplace transform has a 0 at s equal to s naught. Then the value of x of s at s equal to s naught is going to be 0. But x of s at s equal to s naught is integral from minus infinity to infinity x of t e raised to minus s naught t dt. If we have a 0 at s naught, then this integral is going to be equal to 0. Let us take x conjugate of s. It is going to be integral from minus infinity to infinity x conjugate of t e raised to minus s conjugate t dt. But we have this condition x of t is real, so x conjugate of t is the same as x of t. Let us change it. We get integral from minus infinity to infinity x of t e raised to minus s conjugate t dt. Now this is very much the same as x of s, except instead of s we have x conjugate. So this is x of s conjugate. This is equal to x of s conjugate. Now we know again x of t is a real function. So x of t is going to be equal to x conjugate of t. That means their Laplace transforms also will be equal. X of s should be equal to x conjugate of s. But we just learned x conjugate of s is equal to x of s conjugate. So this is also equal to x of s conjugate. Focus on these two. X of s is equal to x of s conjugate. If x of s has a 0 at s equal to s naught, then x of s naught will be equal to 0. But it is equal to x of s conjugate. Then x of s conjugate will also be equal to 0. That means we also have a 0 at s conjugate. Let's write it down. If x of s at s naught, x of s naught is equal to 0, then x of s naught conjugate is also equal to 0. Why? Because x of s is always equal to x of s conjugate. So if x of s naught equal to 0, then it has to be equal to x of s naught conjugate. Now x of s naught conjugate is 0, which means at s naught conjugate we have a 0. Similarly, if we have x of s1 is equal to infinity, that means we have a pole at s equal to s1. But this will be equal to x of s1 conjugate and it will also be equal to infinity, which means if we have a pole at s1, we have a pole at s1 conjugate also. If we have a 0 at s0, we have a 0 at s0 conjugate also. Let us solve a problem based on this. It is given that the signal x of t is real and right-sided. X of s, which is the Laplace transform of x of t, has exactly two poles. It has two zeros at the origin. X of s has one pole at s equal to j and x of 1 is equal to 2. We have to determine x of s and specify its ROC. In the last video, we have seen the general formula for writing the Laplace transform of a function. It is k times, on the numerator we have s minus s1 into s minus s2 up to s minus sn. In the denominator we have s minus a1 into s minus a2 up to s minus an. Here s1, s2 up to sn are the zeros of x of s and a1, a2 up to an are the poles. K will be a constant. According to this question, our x of s has two zeros at the origin. So on the numerator, we will get s minus s1 into s minus s2, where s1 and s2 are 0 because both zeros are at the origin. So we can write x of s is equal to k times, on the numerator we have s square divided by, it is given we have exactly two poles. So it will be of the form s minus a1 into s minus a2. But it is already given that one pole is at s equal to j. So instead of a1, I will write j. But we just learned that if x of t is real and x of s has a pole somewhere, then it also has a pole at its conjugate. Here x of t is real and x of s has a pole at plus j, so it will also have another pole at minus j. So a2 is going to be minus j, s minus a2 will be s plus j. So we can write this is equal to k s square divided by s minus j into s plus j is s square plus 1. Now the only thing we have to find out is the value of k. For that we can use this information. X of 1 is 2. X of 1 will be k multiplied by 1 square divided by 1 square plus 1, that is 2. But according to the question, this is equal to 2. So we get k is equal to 4. Therefore, x of s is 4s square divided by s square plus 1. Now we also need to specify the ROC. For that, let us look at the signal. X of t is right-sided. So its ROC has to be towards the right of the rightmost pole. Here our poles are plus j and minus j. Plus j is 0 plus j, minus j is 0 minus j. The real part in both of them is 0. And ROC only depends on the real part. Since x of t is right-sided, we can write sigma has to be greater than the real part of the pole, that is 0. The next property we have to learn is convolution property. Assume you have a signal x of t whose Laplace transform is x of s, ROC is R1, and you have a signal h of t whose Laplace transform is h of s and its ROC is R2. Then according to this property, Laplace transform of convolution of x of t and h of t is the product of x of s and h of s. Its ROC contains the intersection of R1 and R2. Let us try to prove it. Take y of t to be the convolution of x of t and h of t. That is, y of t is equal to integral from minus infinity to infinity x of tau h of t minus tau d tau. So its Laplace transform y of s will be of this form. Integral from minus infinity to infinity. Y of t is integral from minus infinity to infinity x of tau h of t minus tau d tau e raised to minus st dt. This expression has two integrals. This one corresponds to d tau and this one corresponds to dt. Let us take d tau from here and put it over here. Let us take d tau from here and put it over here. Now let us change the order of the integrals. The integral with respect to dt should come inside and d tau should come outside. So here we have integral from minus infinity to infinity x of tau h of t minus tau e raised to minus st dt. The integral is with respect to the variable t. So x of tau is a function of tau. It is constant with respect to the inner integral. We can take it out of it. Now consider the inner integral. We have integral from minus infinity to infinity h of t minus tau e raised to minus st dt. Let us take t minus tau is equal to u. Then the integral becomes integral from minus infinity to infinity h of t minus tau is h of u e raised to minus s t is u plus tau. Differentiating both sides of this equation, we get dt minus d tau is equal to du, but tau is a constant, so d tau is 0, dt is equal to du. So here we can write du. Over here we have e raised to minus s into u plus tau. We can write it like this, e raised to minus su multiplied by e raised to minus s tau. Now the integral is with respect to the variable u. So e raised to minus s tau is a constant. We can take it out of the integral. We know it doesn't matter what you call the variable to which we are going to give the limit, which is u here. I am going to call it t. Now what we have over here is integral from minus infinity to infinity h of t e raised to minus st dt, which is h of s. So this is equal to e raised to minus s tau h of s. Let us substitute this over here in this equation. So we get y of s is equal to integral from minus infinity to infinity x of tau. The inner integral becomes e raised to minus s tau h of s d tau. Here the integral is with respect to the variable tau. H of s is a function of s, so it can come out of the integration. Now what we have over here is integral from minus infinity to infinity x of tau e raised to minus s tau d tau. Let us call tau t. So this is nothing but x of s. Y of s is equal to h of s multiplied by x of s. We can actually connect this property to an LTI system. If x of t is the input, h of t is the impulse response, and y of t is the output, then we know y of t is the convolution of x of t and h of t in time domain. In S domain, y of s is simply the product of h of s and x of s. Y of s is the Laplace transform of the output y of t. H of s is the Laplace transform of the impulse response h of t, which is also called transfer function, and x of s is the Laplace transform of the input x of t. Now here again I have written ROC contains R1 intersection R2, not ROC is equal to R1 intersection R2. To understand that, let us solve a problem. We have to find the Laplace transform of x of t. X of t is the convolution of x1 of t and x2 of t. Their Laplace transforms are given. X1 of s is s plus 1 by s plus 2. ROC is sigma greater than minus 2. X2 of s is s plus 2 by s plus 1. Its ROC is sigma greater than minus 1. Since x of t is the convolution of these two signals, x of s is going to be the product of x1 of s and x2 of s. So we get s plus 1 by s plus 2 multiplied by s plus 2 by s plus 1. So s plus 2 gets cancelled, s plus 1 also gets cancelled. X of s is simply 1. X of s is 1 for all values of sigma. That means its ROC is equal to the entire S-plane. ROC of the first function was sigma greater than minus 2. ROC of the second one was sigma greater than minus 1. But ROC of the convolution of the two signals is the entire S-plane. The reason is the first one had a pole at minus 2. Second one had a pole at minus 1. But when we took the product, s plus 2 got cancelled. That is, pole at 2 minus 2 got cancelled. S plus 1 also got cancelled. That is, pole at minus 1 also got cancelled. So there are no poles anymore. So the entire S-plane is the ROC. ROC does contain the intersection between sigma greater than minus 2 and sigma greater than minus 1, but it also contains more than that. That is why we wrote here ROC contains R1 intersection R2 rather than ROC is R1 intersection R2, because sometimes if a pole or two gets cancelled, ROC will be more than R1 intersection R2. Let us solve a problem. We have to find the convolution of x1 of t, which is e raised to minus at u of t, and x2 of t, which is u of t. It is given that a is greater than 0. So let us take x of t to be the convolution of x1 of t and x2 of t. Then x of s will be equal to x1 of s multiplied by x2 of s. x1 of t is e raised to minus at u of t. So x1 of s is going to be 1 by s plus a. ROC is sigma greater than minus a. x2 of t is u of t. We have already found the Laplace transform of u of t. So x2 of s is 1 by s and sigma is greater than 0. Now x of s is the product of these two. So x of s is equal to 1 by s plus a multiplied by 1 by s, or 1 by s into s plus a. The pole in our first function was s equal to minus a. The pole in the second function is s equal to 0. In the product, we have a pole at s equal to 0 and another pole at s equal to minus a. Both poles are retained. None of them got cancelled. So ROC is going to be equal to the intersection of the individual ROCs. The first one has sigma greater than minus a, but a is positive, so minus a has to be negative. The second one has sigma greater than 0. For example, if a is 2, then for the first one, sigma is greater than minus 2. For the second one, sigma is greater than 0. So intersection is sigma greater than 0. So x of s will have an ROC sigma greater than 0. Now we have to use partial fraction expansion to write x of s, which is 1 by s into s plus a in the form a by s plus b by s plus a. A will be equal to limit s tends to the pole is 0, s multiplied by x of s. That is limit s tends to 0, 1 by s plus a. And this will be equal to 1 by 0 plus a or 1 by a. The same way, b is going to be limit s tends to pole corresponding to b is minus a. So s tends to minus a, s plus a multiplied by x of s. That is limit s tends to minus a, 1 by s or minus 1 by a. So a is 1 by a and b is minus 1 by a. Therefore, x of s becomes 1 by a times 1 by s minus 1 by a times 1 by s plus a. The question is to find the convolution of x1 of t and x2 of t. So we have to show x of t in the time domain itself. We have x of s. So to get x of t, we have to apply inverse Laplace transform. X of s had two poles, one at s equal to 0 and one at s equal to minus 1. And ROC is sigma greater than 0, that is towards the right of the rightmost pole, which means x of t is right-sided. So we can write x of t like this. The first part is 1 by a multiplied by 1 by s. So 1 by a times inverse Laplace transform of 1 by s is u of t if it is right-sided. If it were left-sided, it would have been u of minus t. For the next term, we have minus 1 by a. Inverse Laplace transform of 1 by s plus a, since the function is right-sided, is e raised to minus at u of t. If it were left-sided, we would have written minus e raised to minus at u of minus t. Putting them together, we get x of t is equal to 1 by a times 1 minus e raised to minus at u of t. This is the convolution of e raised to minus at u of t and u of t. The next property we have to learn is differentiation in the time domain. Assume you have a signal x of t. Its Laplace transform is x of s and ROC is r. Then according to this property, Laplace transform of d by dt of x of t is going to be s x of s and ROC contains r. Let us try to prove it. We know the equation of inverse Laplace transform. X of t is given as 1 by 2 pi j integral from sigma minus j infinity to sigma plus j infinity x of s e raised to st ds. I don't want x of t, I want dx of d by dt. So it will be equal to d by dt of x of t is 1 by 2 pi j integral from sigma minus j infinity to sigma plus j infinity x of s e raised to st ds. Here 1 by 2 pi j is a constant, it can come out of the differentiation. We have an integration, we also have a differentiation. Let us change their orders. We'll do differentiation first and then integration. The differentiation is with respect to the variable t and x of s is a function of s. So it can come out of the differentiation. Here we have d by dt of e raised to st, which is s e raised to st. So we get 1 by 2 pi j integral from sigma minus j infinity to sigma plus j infinity x of s multiplied by derivative of e raised to st is s e raised to st ds. We have x of s into s, we can write it as sx of s. Now compare this equation with this equation. There is only one slight difference. Instead of x of s, here we have sx of s. When you had x of s, it was x of t. When you have sx of s, it is d by dt of x of t. So if x of s is the Laplace transform of x of t, then sx of s is the Laplace transform of d by dt of x of t. In the case of ROC, here also I have written ROC contains R, not ROC is equal to R. To understand that, let's take an example. Assume we have an x of s that is equal to 1 by s into s plus 1. The Laplace transform of its derivative will be sx of s. So sx of s will be 1 by s plus 1. As you can see, the original had two poles, one at s equal to 0, the other at s equals minus 1. But now the one at s got cancelled and we only have one pole at s equal to minus 1. So this can happen every time if there is a pole at s equal to 0. If your original function has a pole at s equal to 0, when you take sx of s, it can get cancelled. That is why we wrote ROC contains R. If x of s has a pole at s equal to 0, it will get cancelled in sx of s. So ROC may be larger than R. Let us solve a problem based on this. We have to find the Laplace transform of d by dt of x of t, where x of t is u of t. First, let's find the Laplace transform of u of t. It is integral from minus infinity to infinity u of t e raised to minus st dt. Now u of t is 0 for t less than 0 and it is 1 for t greater than or equal to 0. So this will be equal to integral from 0 to infinity u of t is 1 e raised to minus st dt. Doing the integration, we get 1 by minus s e raised to minus st, giving the limits from 0 to infinity. So this is minus 1 by s multiplied by, giving the upper limit, I get e raised to minus infinity, which is 0. Giving the lower limit, we have e raised to 0, that is 1. So 0 minus 1. Negative and negative gets cancelled. This is simply 1 by s. Now, when you give the upper limit s equal to infinity, you get e raised to minus infinity only if s is positive. If s is negative, it will be e raised to minus. Then s is also a negative. Then there is infinity. So negative and negative gets cancelled and you will get e raised to plus infinity. So this Laplace transform converges only if s is greater than 0. But then ROC doesn't depend on the imaginary part. So we can write sigma greater than 0. ROC is sigma greater than 0. Now, what we actually want is the Laplace transform of d by dt of u of t. According to the property, it is s multiplied by x of s. So, over here it will be s multiplied by x of s is 1 by s. That is, it is equal to 1. It is a constant, which means it is finite for every value of sigma. So, ROC is the entire S-plane. U of t had a pole at s equal to 0, but it got cancelled over here. Let us check if this is true. We know d by dt of u of t is actually delta of t. Derivative of unit step function is the impulse function. And Laplace transform of the impulse function will be integral from minus infinity to infinity delta of t e raised to minus st dt. Now delta of t only has non-zero value at t equal to 0. Everywhere else it is 0. So we don't really have to take the integration. We just have to take the value at t equal to 0. So this is equal to delta of t at t equal to 0 is 1 multiplied by e raised to minus st at t equal to 0 is e raised to 0, which is equal to 1. So Laplace transform of delta of t is 1, which is a finite number. So it is going to be finite for any value of sigma. So its ROC is the entire S-plane, which is exactly what we got over here. The next property we have to learn is differentiation in the S domain. Assume x of s is the Laplace transform of a signal x of t and its ROC is R. Then according to this property, the inverse Laplace transform of d by ds of x of s is going to be minus tx of t and ROC will be R itself. We have to prove this. Laplace transform of the signal x of t, that is x of s, is defined like this: integral from minus infinity to infinity x of t e raised to minus st dt. I want d by ds of x of s. So that will be d by ds of x of s is integral from minus infinity to infinity x of t e raised to minus st dt. There is an integration and there is a differentiation. I want to change their orders. Here the differentiation is with respect to the variable s. Over here we have x of t, which is a function of t, so it can come out of the differentiation. Now all we have to do here is take the differentiation of e raised to minus st with respect to the variable s. So it is going to be minus t e raised to minus st. So we get integral from minus infinity to infinity x of t multiplied by minus t e raised to minus st dt. Let us put x of t and minus t together. Now compare this equation with this equation. The only difference is instead of x of t, you have minus t x of t. So if x of t is the inverse Laplace transform of x of s, then minus t x of t will be the inverse Laplace transform of d by ds of x of s. The idea behind ROC being the same is when we differentiate, none of the poles actually gets cancelled. As long as the poles doesn't cancel, ROC will be equal to R. Let us solve a problem based on this. We have to find the Laplace transform of t e raised to minus at u of t. We already know the Laplace transform of e raised to minus at u of t. It is 1 by s plus a sigma greater than minus a. According to the property we learned, Laplace transform of minus t x of t will be d by ds of x of s. So Laplace transform of minus t multiplied by e raised to minus at u of t will be d by ds of x of s, here is 1 by s plus a. But in the question we want t e raised to minus at u of t. So let us take this negative from here and put it on the other side. So this will be equal to negative of derivative of 1 by s plus a is minus 1 by s plus a whole square. Negative and negative gets cancelled. We get the Laplace transform of t e raised to minus at u of t is 1 by s plus a whole square, and according to the property ROC does not change, so sigma is greater than minus a. We can actually form a general result from this. Let us start by taking the Laplace transform of t square e raised to minus at u of t. Now this is actually t times t e raised to minus at u of t. So to get that, you will have to take minus d by ds of Laplace transform of t e raised to minus at u of t, which is 1 by s plus a whole square. This will be equal to negative of derivative of 1 by s plus a whole square is minus 2 times 1 by s plus a whole cube. This is equal to 2 divided by s plus a whole cube. ROC does not change. We still have sigma greater than minus a. Let us take 2 to the other side. So Laplace transform of t square by 2 e raised to minus at u of t is 1 by s plus a whole cube sigma greater than minus a. How about we try to find out t cube e raised to minus 80 u of t. This is actually t times this one. So to get that, you'll have to find the derivative of Laplace transform of t square e raised to minus 80 u of t with respect to s. So d by ds of 2 divided by s plus a whole cube. Again, the property is for minus t x of t. Here we are only multiplying it with t, not minus t. So we'll have a negative over here. Minus d by ds of 2 by s plus a whole cube. And this will be negative of 2 times derivative of 1 by s plus a whole cube is minus 3 times 1 by s plus a to the power 4. So this is equal to 2 times 3 divided by s plus a to the power 4, and ROC does not change, sigma greater than minus a. Let us take 2 into 3 from here to here. Then we get t cube divided by 2 into 3 e raised to minus 80 u of t. The Laplace transform of this is going to be 1 by s plus a to the power 4, and sigma is greater than minus a. Here we have 2 into 3. We can write it as 1 into 2 into 3. Here we have 2. We can write it as 1 into 2. Assume instead of t cube, in the next step I took t raised to 4 e raised to minus 80 u of t. We can predict what is going to happen to this equation then. I'll be getting t raised to 4 divided by 1 into 2 into 3 into 4 e raised to minus 80 u of t, and its Laplace transform is going to be 1 by s plus a whole raised to 5, sigma greater than minus a. We know 1 into 2 is 2 factorial. 1 into 2 into 3 is 3 factorial. In the next step, if we get 1 into 2 into 3 into 4, it is 4 factorial. So let's change 1 into 2 into 2 factorial and 1 into 2 into 3 into 3 factorial. In the next step, it would have been 4 factorial. So we can write the general form. T raised to n minus 1 divided by n factorial e raised to minus 80 u of t is the inverse Laplace transform of 1 by s plus a to the power n, and ROC will be sigma greater than minus a. Let us solve a problem now. We have to find the inverse Laplace transform of x of s, which is 2s square plus 5s plus 5 divided by s plus 1 whole square into s plus 2. Sigma is greater than minus 1. We can see that there is a repeated root at s equal to minus 1. To find the inverse Laplace transform, first we have to apply partial fraction expansion. We have to write x of s in this form: a by s plus 1 plus b by s plus 1 whole square plus c by s plus 2. To find a, we have to take limit s tends to the pole corresponding to a is minus 1. So s tends to minus 1. D by ds of s plus 1 whole square multiplied by x of s. This is equal to limit s tends to minus 1. D by ds of s plus 1 whole square multiplied by x of s will be 2s square plus 5s plus 5 divided by s plus 2. Taking the derivative, we get a limit s tends to minus 1. S plus 2 multiplied by derivative of the numerator, that is 4s plus 5 minus 2s square plus 5s plus 5 multiplied by the derivative of the denominator, which is 1, divided by square of the denominator, s plus 2 whole square. Now here we have to give the value to s, that is minus 1. If you do that, you will get this is equal to minus 1. So a is minus 1. Now b will be limit s tends to the pole corresponding to b is again minus 1. So s tends to minus 1. S plus 1 whole square multiplied by x of s. That is limit s tends to minus 1. S plus 1 whole square multiplied by x of s is 2s square plus 5s plus 5 divided by s plus 2. If you give the value minus 1 to s, this will become 2. So b is equal to 2. To get c, we take limit s tends to the pole corresponding to c here is minus 2. So s tends to minus 2. S plus 2 multiplied by x of s. That is limit s tends to minus 2. S plus 2 multiplied by x of s will be 2s square plus 5s plus 5 divided by s plus 1 whole square. Now if you substitute s equal to minus 2, this will become 3. So c is equal to 3. So we can write x of s like this. X of s is minus 1 by s plus 1 plus 2 by s plus 1 whole square plus 3 by s plus 2. It has 3 poles, one at s equal to minus 1, the other at s equal to minus 1 and the other at s equal to minus 2. Here minus 1 will be the rightmost pole, and in the question it is given sigma is greater than minus 1. So ROC is towards the right of the rightmost pole. That means the original signals should also be right-sided. Using that information, let us try to write x of t. For the first term, we have minus 1 by s plus 1. So its inverse will be minus inverse of 1 by s plus 1 if it is right-sided is e raised to minus t u of t plus the next term is 2 by s plus 1 whole square. So 2 multiplied by, we need the inverse Laplace transform of 1 by s plus 1 whole square. But we learned 1 by s plus a whole square is the Laplace transform of t multiplied by e raised to minus at u of t. So we get 2 times t e raised to minus t u of t. We took the right-sided version because our signals are right-sided. For the next term, we have 3 times inverse Laplace transform of 1 by s plus 2 if it is right-sided is e raised to minus 2t u of t. Together we can write it like this. X of t is equal to minus e raised to minus t plus 2t e raised to minus t plus 3 e raised to minus 2t u of t. The next property we have to learn is integration in the time domain. If x of s is the Laplace transform of a signal x of t and its ROC is r, then according to this property, Laplace transform of integral from minus infinity to t x of tau d tau is going to be 1 by s x of s, and the ROC contains the intersection of r and sigma greater than 0. To prove this, we'll start by taking the convolution of our signal x of t and u of t. This will be equal to integral from minus infinity to infinity x of tau u of t minus tau d tau. We have u of t minus tau here, and it is supposed to be a function of tau. So we will write it like this, u of minus tau plus t. Then this becomes integral from minus infinity to infinity x of tau u of minus tau plus t d tau. U of minus tau plus t as a function of tau will look like this. It is 1 for tau being minus infinity to t, and after that it is 0. So we don't have to integrate from minus infinity to infinity. We only have to integrate from minus infinity up to t, because after that the product is going to be 0 anyways. So this becomes integral from minus infinity to t x of tau from minus infinity to t u of minus tau plus t is just 1. So multiplied by 1 d tau. So what we just found out is this. The right hand side of this relation, integral from minus infinity to t x of tau d tau, is nothing but the convolution of x of t with the unit step function. We know the Laplace transform of u of t. It is 1 by s and ROC is sigma greater than 0. Integral minus infinity to t x of tau d tau is the convolution of x of t and y of t. So its Laplace transform is going to be the product of Laplace transform of x of t and Laplace transform of u of t. Let's write it down. Laplace transform of integral minus infinity to t x of tau d tau is going to be Laplace transform of x of t, that is x of s, multiplied by Laplace transform of u of t. I'll call it u of s. This is equal to x of s multiplied by 1 by s, or we can write 1 by s x of s. We also have to define the ROC. This is a product of two functions x of s and u of s. So its product is going to be the intersection of R1 and R2 as long as no pole is getting cancelled. We can see we're doing 1 by s multiplied by x of s. So no pole in x of s is getting cancelled. Instead, we are adding an extra pole at s equal to 0. So we could say ROC is going to be the intersection of the original ROC R and the ROC of the function with which we took the integration, that is u of t. The ROC of its Laplace transform is sigma greater than 0. So this will be intersection of R and sigma greater than 0. But this is not entirely correct. Since we are integrating the signal, after integration the behavior of signal can change. And therefore ROC can expand beyond R intersection sigma greater than 0. So instead of writing ROC is equal to this, we will write ROC contains intersection of R and sigma greater than 0. The next property we have to learn is the initial value theorem. According to this, if x of t is equal to 0 for t less than 0 and x of t contains no impulse or higher order singularities at t equal to 0, then x of 0 plus will be equal to limit s tends to infinity s x of s. Here x of 0 plus is the value of x of t as t approaches 0 from positive values of t. For example, let us take a unit step function. T equal to 0 is over here. If you try to approach t equal to 0 from the left side like this, you can see the value is 0 at t equal to 0. But if you approach it from the right side like this, you can see at t equal to 0 the value of u of t is 1. So x of 0 plus is the value of x of t as t approaches 0 from the positive values of t. So like this. Now the condition for this to be true is x of t should be 0 for t less than 0 and x of t should not have any impulse or other singularities at t equal to 0. By singularities, we mean that the signal should not have any abrupt change at t equal to 0. It should be well defined. Having an impulse is actually considered a singularity. So as long as x of t is 0 for t less than 0 and x of t does not have any impulse or other singularities at t equal to 0, x of 0 plus will be equal to limit s tends to infinity s x of s. Obviously, we have to prove it. Usually when we want x of s, Laplace transform of x of t, this is how we write. Integral from minus infinity to infinity x of t e raised to minus st dt. But over here, we have a condition for x of t. X of t is 0 for t less than 0. So we don't really have to integrate from minus infinity to infinity. We can just integrate from 0 to infinity because x of t is 0 for t less than 0 anyways. So we can write x of s is equal to integral from 0 to infinity x of t e raised to minus st dt. In the first case, the Laplace transform extends to both sides of 0, that is to minus infinity and to plus infinity. We call it bilateral Laplace transform. In the second case, it only extends from 0 to positive infinity. So we call it unilateral Laplace transform. For initial value theorem to be applied, x of t has to be 0 for t less than 0. So we will be using this equation for Laplace transform. So we can say that initial value theorem only applies for unilateral Laplace transform. According to the theorem, we have to find out limit s tends to infinity sx of s. Now sx of s will be s multiplied by integral 0 to infinity x of t e raised to minus st dt. Inside the integral, we have two functions, x of t and e raised to minus st. So we'll have to do integration by parts. Assume you have to find an integral of the product of u and v, that is integral uv. By integration by part, this will be u multiplied by integral of v minus integral of v multiplied by derivative of u. Here we'll take x of t as u and e raised to minus t as v. So sx of s will be, there is an s outside, the integral becomes, first we have to take u as such and integral of v. That is x of t with integral of e raised to minus st, that is e raised to minus st divided by minus s. The limit is from 0 to infinity. Minus, we need integral of v into du. So integral from 0 to infinity, integral of v is e raised to minus st. So its integral is e raised to minus st divided by minus s multiplied by derivative of u, that is dx of t by dt. Multiplying the first term with s and s gets cancelled. Multiplying the second term with s and s over here gets cancelled. So this becomes minus x of t e raised to minus st, limits are from 0 to infinity, minus integral from 0 to infinity e raised to minus st dx of t by dt. But here we had a minus s, so there is an extra negative there, which will make this negative positive. Let us give the limits over here. If you give t equal to infinity, this becomes e raised to minus infinity, which is 0. So this is going to be 0 minus of, if you give t equal to 0, x of t becomes x of 0. E raised to minus st becomes e raised to 0, which is 1. So this term simply becomes x of 0. Since the limit is between infinity to 0, we are coming from the positive side. So x of 0 will be x of 0 plus. The second term will remain as such, integral from 0 to infinity e raised to minus st dx of t by dt. Now consider s tends to infinity. Then sx of s becomes x of 0 plus the next term is integral 0 to infinity e raised to minus st d by dt of x of t. But s is infinity. So e raised to minus st will be e raised to minus infinity, which is equal to 0. So this whole term becomes 0. Therefore we can write limit s tends to infinity sx of s will give us x of 0 plus. And this is the required proof. Let us go to the next property. This is the final value theorem. According to this, if x of t is equal to 0 for t less than 0 and x of t has a finite limit as t tends to infinity, then limit t tends to infinity x of t will be equal to limit s tends to 0 sx of s. Here the left hand side limit t tends to infinity x of t is the final value of x of t, or the value of x of t at t equal to infinity. And this is given that x of t does have a finite limit at t equal to infinity. The value of x of t at t equal to infinity is a finite value. Then we can find it by taking limit s tends to 0 sx of s. Let us prove this. We will start by defining x of s. It is integral from minus infinity to infinity x of t e raised to minus st dt. But we have a condition x of t is equal to 0 for t less than 0. So we don't have to take bilateral Laplace transform. We will take unilateral Laplace transform. Integral will be from 0 to infinity. Now s x of s will be s multiplied by integral 0 to infinity x of t e raised to minus st dt. Using integration by parts, this becomes minus x of t e raised to minus st, giving the limit from 0 to infinity, plus integral from 0 to infinity e raised to minus st dx of t by dt dt. Let us give limits here. Giving the upper limit, we have e raised to minus infinity, which is 0. So this will be 0 minus, giving the lower limit, e raised to 0 becomes 1, and over here we will get x of 0 with a negative. So it will be 0 minus minus of x of 0 or plus of x of 0. But we went to 0 from infinity, that is in the positive side. So it is x of 0 plus. Plus the next term is integral from 0 to infinity e raised to minus st dx of t by dt dt. Here we have to take s tends to 0. At s tends to 0, e raised to minus st over here will become e raised to 0, that is 1. Then sx of s will be x of 0 plus integral from 0 to infinity dx of t by dt dt. Let us cancel the dt and dt. Now this is just integral dx of t, which is x of t. Limit is from 0 to infinity. So this becomes x of 0 plus giving the upper limit we get x of infinity minus giving the lower limit x of 0. Again we are approaching 0 from infinity, that is from the positive side. So it is x of 0 plus. X of 0 plus and minus x of 0 plus gets cancelled. And we get sx of s is equal to x of infinity. So we can write limit s tends to 0 sx of s gave us x of infinity, which can be written as limit t tends to infinity x of t. And this is what we call the final value theorem. Let us solve a problem based on this. We have to find the initial value of x of t. X of t is e raised to minus 2t u of t plus e raised to minus t cos 3t u of t. Its Laplace transform is given. It is 2s square plus 5s plus 12 divided by s cube plus 4s square plus 14s plus 20, and ROC is sigma greater than minus 1. We need to find the initial value. According to initial value theorem, x of 0 plus is limit s tends to infinity sx of s. So we get limit s tends to infinity. Multiplying x of s with s, we get 2s cube plus 5s square plus 12s divided by s cube plus 4s square plus 14s plus 20. Here s is infinity, so we can't directly give infinity here. What we do is we'll divide the numerator and the denominator with s cube. Then this will become limit s tends to infinity. 2s cube divided by s cube is 2 plus 5s square divided by s cube is 5 by s plus 12s divided by s cube is 12 by s square divided by s cube divided by s cube is 1 plus 4s square divided by s cube 4 by s plus 14s by s cube 14 by s square plus 20 by s cube. Now we can give the value s equals infinity. 5 by s, 5 by infinity becomes 0. 12 by s square becomes 0. 4 by s becomes 0. 14 by s square and 20 by s cube also becomes 0. So this is simply equal to 2 by 1 or 2. So initial value of this function is 2. Let us check if it is true. Since we have x of t here, it is easy for us to check it. Just put t equal to 0. X of 0 will be e raised to 0 u of 0 plus e raised to 0 cos 0 u of 0. E raised to 0 is 1, u of 0 is 1, so 1 plus e raised to 0 is 1, cos 0 is 1, u of 0 is 1, so 1. This is equal to 2, which is exactly what we got over here. So that's all about it for today. See you in the next video. And don't forget to subscribe.